Yes, sir.
Are you able to hear me?
I can hear you, sir. Yes.
You know what? I'm going to go ahead and greet everyone and then, jump in and out.
Sure.
Um, good evening, everyone. I just wanted to, this is Tyrone Garrett from the Housing Authority, the Executive Director. So I truly appreciate the opportunity to engage with you and for my team to be able to discuss where we are with the Greenleaf opportunity. I believe this is something for me that I inherited when I came on board, and we've been working very hard over the last 3 years to try and move us through this particular process as quickly as we possibly can. And nothing ever happens as as fast as we would like it to. We realize, and I think from um, my administration coming on board, that we've identified several issues and problems that probably were identified before I came on board. But clearly, we understand the significance and the need of urgency, and we're trying to move as quickly as we possibly can. It doesn't make up for, where we might have missed some touches with families, where we might have missed touches with you as groups and organizations, but it doesn't mean that um, your input is not warranted and not necessary in order for us to move forward. We're not going to be able to fix all the problems with the Housing Authority or all the problems at Greenleaf today, but the idea is to make sure that we have a strong coalition and understand exactly what direction we would like to travel in, because it's the quality of life that we're sincerely trying to improve. And we know the methods of how to do that. I know that there have been a lot. I received an email today, and I just want to comment on that before I turn it over to the team to go forward. I received an email where there has really been a lot of misinformation being circulated around the community as to what was offered to us, where we are with the particular process, and hopefully this evening we'll be able to, move past some of those misnomers. So that everyone is on the same page and understands exactly where we are in the particular process and what direction we would actually like to travel in. Again, it's our sincerity, um, nothing more than our heart trying to do the right thing on behalf of residents. One thing that I do know is that there is going to be no parachute from HUD to come in and give us the capital money that we need to make a lot of the improvements overnight. So we have to look at other alternatives and other game plans in order to effectuate that opportunity. And I think what we've been able to put together over the last few months is a great opportunity to move us forward. And in reality, all we're asking for now from our Board of Commissioners and also from you as our residents and our customers is just the opportunity to be able to discuss and talk with a development team about the next steps in moving some type of opportunity for Greenleaf redevelopment forward. You'll bring up questions about build first. We're committed to that particular concept on site and possibly off site if necessary. I think in the email that I received, there was mention of other parcels. What you'll find out today is that we've already done those types of engagement, and I believe we're on the same page with many of you in terms of what you would like to see happen at Greenleaf. So I'm going to be jumping in and out of the call, but if you have questions, please put them in the chat or offer them verbally. Jose will take them down, and the team will be able to, through their presentation, hopefully address many of your concerns up front. And then I'll be able to, anything that they're not able to address, we'll be able to get back to you in short time frame to discuss it with you as a group. And the other part, I just want to make it known that this is something that we want to do consistently with you moving forward. This isn't a one-off where we're just looking for this one engagement. We want to continue this particular conversation with you going forward throughout the process as we get down the road over the next few years. So I'm going to turn it over to Central Sankaran, who is our Director of um, Office of Capital Programs, and his team, along with Andre Good, who I'm sure all of you already know. So, Central.
Good evening, everyone. I'm
Senthil, I'm sorry. Can I interrupt you for a quick
Sure.
second? Thank you, Mr. Garrett, for kicking us off. Just a quick housekeeping item before Senthil takes over. We do have a presentation. Hopefully everyone on this call has received the presentation in paper format. My name is Jose Sousa. I just want to go over a couple of housekeeping items. You heard us at the beginning of the call, if you joined early, that we're tracking down some names. We'll stop that for the time being. We'll go through this presentation, and our remarks at the beginning, and then at the conclusion of the presentation, we'll do a quick catch up of the other folks who joined the call so that we can rename the phone numbers that are showing up. and then we'll go through the Q&A that we'll be able to unmute lines one by one to allow folks to ask their questions or make their comments. The meeting is being recorded. Once the meeting concludes this evening, we will upload the recording of this meeting to the dcha.us/Greenleaf site, so you'll be able to refer back to it. And as you saw in your deck, also, we'll talk about what the next meeting date will be. So with that, I'll kick it back over to my colleague, Senthil Sankaran. And just so you all know, also, we are joined by a few other members of our team from our property management team. We'll introduce them as well when we get to that portion of the meeting. But in the meantime, Senthil, thank you for the interruption.
Jose, thanks. I appreciate it. Good evening, everyone. And thank you, Executive Director. I think you hit upon a lot of the same points that I wanted to hit upon before I hand it off to Andre Gold, who is the lead project, the project lead on for Greenleaf, and I believe many of you have interacted with. First off, I just wanted to introduce myself. I came into this process. I haven't been engaged in the process quite as long as Andre has, as I joined a little over a year ago to the Housing Authority. And what I wanted to be able to do is, I joined shortly before the presentations to the community that were made for Greenleaf, I believe last December. But what I wanted to reinforce at the beginning is that, this has been a long process, and but it has also been one that's been rooted in, that has been and will continue to be one that is rooted, within a heavy resident engagement, whether it be during the master planning process or the draft leading up to the RFQ that was released by our office, and then everything going forward, whether it be, in terms of working with both the Housing Authority and the developer on planning going forward, whether it be for the build first sites or for on-site, and all of the zoning processes that need to take place in accordance with that. And I want to make sure that I am able to reiterate that the residents and the Housing Authority need to be in the middle of this process. This is not a handoff to a private developer. Like, this is, it's important for me to be able to say, like, I have been both on the public side and on the private side of real estate development, but this is its core, a community-driven project. And I want to reassure folks here that that's what is driving myself and our team. And I'm kidding what I think is a punchline early in the conversation before I hand it off to Andre, but I also want to reassure everyone that DCHA is 100% committed to build first as well. And in fact, a lot of those, the comments that we heard through that, through this process informed the actual RFP, and Andre will be kind of walking through that. So I did want to reinforce that point. And at this point, I can probably hand it off to Andre, but then I'm open to answer any questions that anybody would have. But I do look forward to working with many of you through this process, and please know that I'm available if needed.
Thank you, Senthil. Let's see here, Andre.
Yeah, Andre, if you want to start, and I think you can share your screen, Andre, for the presentation.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I'm Andre Gould, one of the senior development managers on the project, and been working with a lot of you for quite a long time. I'm actually going to share the presentation. All right, we'll get started. We'll just briefly talk about the project and the overall history, some of the community engagement that we've had, and talk more about the proposed developer selection that we have and the next steps. So as you know, Greenleaf is about 493 units. Is broken up into several different property types. Today, we're talking with the Greenleaf family portion of the site, which includes the garden townhomes, as well as the extension, additions, and the family building. A lot of you may know that we began this master planning process back in 2015. We brought DCHA hired a master planner to work with the DCHA as well as the residents to put together an overall plan that we could use to inform our RFP in order to select a development partner so that they would know what the residents and the stakeholders and the community wanted to see in their neighborhood. In 2018, we released a request for qualifications. There were 10 respondents to that request for qualifications, and they only provided their qualifications at that time in 2018. They did not provide proposals. The next step was there was a request for proposals, and there were 5 respondents to that request for proposals in 2019. Also in 2019, in December of 2019, there was a public presentation, which was the last time that we met publicly with you all. And we brought out those 5 respondents, and they talked about their qualifications, as well as you had an opportunity to see some of their presentations or proposals. We took your questions, and we actually asked those questions during a best and final offer, where we reduced it to 4 respondents, and they were evaluated. And we're at the point now where we would like to bring forth a team called Greenleaf District Partners, which is made up of developers Penrose, EYA, and Bazzuto Group. We'd like to take that to our board for their approval to begin negotiations with that selected team.
Andre, if you don't mind going back just 1 second, if I can add, I think that last step is important. That's just to clarify what stage we're in right now. We have not negotiated with this team, on a one-on-one basis. We have been going through an active procurement, but what we're seeking now in terms of getting approval from our board is to enter into negotiations. And simultaneous with those negotiations, and critical piece of that negotiation is, and I believe Jose is going to talk a little bit more about it later, is like what our engagement with the residents will be during that period. And we will be coming to you with the development partner in order to help shape what it is that DCHA will actually be negotiating for. I mean, based upon these requirements that have already been informed, but it'll be so that we can ensure that the resident voices are heard during that negotiation process. So just to clarify, we have not negotiated a deal, and we're presenting that to date. We have not had the one-on-one negotiation with this team that we need to ensure that all the priorities are fully baked into our deal. Sorry, Andre, thanks.
No, thank you for that clarification. Just to step back a little bit, during the early community engagement process, we formed a Greenleaf advisory group that was made up of community stakeholders. It also included all 3 of the Greenleaf resident councils and the ANCs, and they helped get information back out to you all as well as the community on different stages when we were discussing the overall master planning. As you may remember, during that master planning process, there were a few goals that were developed. Those goals being built first, one-for-one replacement of all 493 units, which would allow us to minimize resident moves by providing Build First. For that Built First to be relocated within the Southwest neighborhood, to also provide a mix of affordable and market rate units, and as well build elements into the design that increase activity and public safety. The selected partner, Greenleaf District Partners, they actually responded well. We made sure that we put all of those parameters within the RFP. And Greenleaf District Partners responded on Build First. They provided two Build First options that are located in the Southwest neighborhood. Their proposal includes one-for-one replacement of all 493 units. They provided a program that had a variety of phasing options that would minimize resident moves. All the units that are being replaced are in the Southwest neighborhood. They have a plan that shows a mix of affordable and market rate units. And they also have a design that creates additional public safety by having ground level retail and community space that maximize activity on the sidewalk and eyes on the street. Why do we believe this partner is a strong partner to move forward with for DCHA and its residents? Is that their proposal offered DCHA to continue to have ownership and participation in management as well throughout several phases. Their financing, especially in these days and times where funding sources are very limited, of all the proposals that were put out there, theirs had the least reliance on other competitive sources, such as Housing Production Trust Fund. They had very strong experience working with other housing authorities as well as other affordable housing projects. And also, we believe that their overall design was aligned with the proposal that you all helped develop previously. It had varied housing types, targeted for residents of all different types of ages, as well as trying to tie together the green spaces located in the Greenleaf Southwest neighborhood. Just to give you some visuals, their design, as you can see, had a mix of townhomes, which are these lower level objects here, which are the townhomes. They have condominiums, as well as multifamily buildings from 7 to 8 stories, as well as some higher story multifamily, which is just located on M Street, as opposed to the rest of the neighborhood. They have plans where they can reinvigorate Landsberg Park, as well as approximately 35,000 square feet of commercial space. Overall, their plan calls for over 2 million square feet of development. I want to alert you that none of this development would propose to happen immediately. This plan would take several years, and we would come out to you and talk to you and make sure that it aligns with the previous master planning that was done, and do the best to try to meld those two plans. This is not set in stone, it's only proposed. Penrose is a developer that's worked with several housing authorities in the district. They've worked with the housing authority as well as DMPED in creating 150 units in the Deanwood neighborhood. 50 of those units are replacement units for Lincoln Heights and Richardson dwellings, as well as St. Stephen's in the Marshall Heights neighborhood. You all may be aware of EYA's development and capital quarters that they did with the Housing Authority in the Navy Yard area. Bozzuto Group, as a contractor, helped build Metro Towns, which is located in the Kenilworth Parkside neighborhood, where there are over 30 public housing units that were rebuilt. So all of these developers have experience working in the district, as well as with housing authorities building affordable housing. I'm going to turn it over to Jose to talk about the next rounds of community engagement.
Thank you, Andre. So again, I'm Jose Sousa. We typically, obviously, would prefer to have been able to conduct this meeting in person with all of you on site at Greenleaf. Given where we are with the pandemic, at this point, it's not permissible for us to be able to have this meeting. However, it is important that we take advantage of the opportunity to continue to move forward, to continue to share information, and to continue to set a path for how we'll continue to work with everyone. So this is our first of these meetings. We'll be meeting monthly with all of you to provide updates on where we're going from here and to go over some important elements of the proposed plan, not just what was in the master plan, but also what will eventually be part of the negotiations that are shaped by the work done by the Housing Authority along with the developer. Right now, you're just getting us. It's DCHA is here, and we're here to just kind of kick off this process. But going forward, should the board move forward with a successful approval of the resolution to enter into the opportunity to negotiate, that would then permit us the opportunity to bring the development team into these discussions so that you can hear directly from them on the project vision. They can hear not just your voice around the key elements of the master planning process that help shape where we are today, but where we'll go from here. And so today we're meeting with Greenleaf Gardens, Additions, and Family. Tomorrow we'll be meeting with the seniors. We've already set the next meeting date for the next for next month as well, and I'll get to that on the next slide. But we'll continue to talk about sort of an in-depth overview of what the redevelopment process will look like. You've heard my colleagues make mention of the fact that this will be a years-long engagement. We're at the very beginning of it as it pertains to the development entities that will be involved with us. It will also include a highly regulated process from the Housing and Urban Development Department, from HUD, the Section 18 demo and dispo overview. That is going to be part of what will end up happening at Greenleaf, and we'll be able to go into more detail on this in subsequent meetings to talk about what that means, how long it takes, what are the steps that are triggered by going through that process. We'll also be providing updates to the ANC 6D on this issue. We'll be talking about the build first components. You heard again my colleagues make reference to this, and as we get deeper into this process, we'll be talking a little bit more about how that will be structured, how we intend to comply with the replacement of all existing units. Further along in the process, we have a dedicated relocation team that works very closely with residents when and if the time comes to relocate on site, what that means, what this will mean in terms of project phasing. Now, all of these subjects are a couple of years out in terms of being effectuated, but it is important that we provide an overview of everything that's going to be involved sort of at the beginning, and then how we'll continue to work on it throughout. So let me just add 2 more points on this slide before we go over to the next one, which is also you'll see inclusion from several of our colleagues from the Office of Resident Services too, to talk about the kinds of programming that they'll be able to offer and do offer on a regular basis through this effort. Obviously, the Envision Center, the Envision Center is located on the campus of Greenleaf right now. Hopefully, when we get to a post-pandemic environment, we'll be able to learn a little bit more about how those programs are being effectuated, not just there, but how they're being delivered virtually right now. There's a website, dcha.us/Greenleaf. You'll be able to visit that website, see this presentation, see the recording of this meeting. and also a dedicated email address. Several of you have already submitted comments through there already. greenleaffeedback@dchousing.org. We're monitoring that. We'll be responding to that. We'll be collecting your information and incorporating that into what we're doing here. Andre, do you want to go to the next slide? This is the next point. So right now we included this in your decks, which is that we want to come back obviously next month to provide an additional update, an update on the work that will be taking place. To hear a summary of what you've shared today, a summary of what your neighbors will have shared for the senior building, an update on what takes place in next week's board meeting. And we've set that next meeting date for Thursday, December 10th at 1 p.m. And from there, like Mr. Garrett mentioned at the beginning, we want to set a regular set of meeting dates on a monthly basis. Right now, this will pick a couple of different avenues where right now we know that 1 p.m. may not be convenient for everyone. We'll start with that and then try to alternate and create a method in which we can allow for the most amount of participation to take place for subsequent engagements. I have my fingers crossed that we'll, of course, be back together again in person, be able to conduct these meetings, and so that we can spend some valuable time together as we continue to shape this process. My colleagues from the Office of Property Management Operations and from Resident Services are also with us today. Their names and phone numbers are listed here, and in the packets that we shared with you, Ms. Harvell, Mr. Friday. For building related concerns, if you want to bring any of those questions up, obviously you'll be able to do so directly with them. That is the most appropriate avenue to reach out to them directly. Today's meeting was primarily an opportunity for us to be able to talk a little bit more specifically about the first part of what this redevelopment process will be and how we'll shape this process going forward. Andre, did I miss anything, or Senthil, do you want to add anything at this point in time?
No, I think you hit everything.
Okay. Senthil, do you have anything right now?
No, Jose, I think between you and Andre, you covered it. I think now might be the best time to open it up for questions. And again, just to reinforce that this is the kicking off of a process. I know it's been ongoing for a while, but this is the kicking off of the process. And what we, as my team, we're really excited about is, now actually getting, jumping right in and, working with the development team and the residents and the broader community in order to, put to paper a lot of what's been going on, for the last few years in terms of effectuating the, a lot what some of these plans that that the residents were integral in creating. So I look forward to that process.
They used to call James Brown the hardest working man in show business, but I'm going to kick it over to my executive director, Mr. Garrett, because I know he's pulling double duty on 2 different calls. If you want to add anything to this point, sir, that we didn't cover during your presentation, because I know you're on 2 calls at once too.
No, I just want to say thank you again for everyone participating. And as Senthil and Andre and Jose have said, this is an ongoing process, but I'm happy about where we are. I'm excited about finally having the opportunity to move something forward. What I've tried to express to my team and also to the board, and what I want to express to you directly, is the only way we get to the finish line is by starting. And this is a great opportunity for us as a team, collaboratively, you as leading the way for us to get started and possibly be able to create a new community based on what you have already built as your foundation. I'm inspired, and I'm hoping that you understand and can see that this is a different agency, and we've transformed ourselves to some point over the last 3 years to try and make ourselves better, and we want to continue to improve. But the only way we do that is to have opportunities with your support. So again, this is something that we're going to work through together. These type of meetings are going to occur whether they're in person or virtual, but we're going to avail ourselves to you as much as we possibly can to give you the opportunity to lead us and give us direction.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett. So one of the challenges that we sometimes can have with this forum is that it's difficult to hear everybody at the same time, and so that's why we were taking attendance at the front end. There's a new feature that WebEx has also introduced that's made it a little bit more complicated tonight, but we're going to get through this together. So my colleague LaShawn and I are going to just try to get through a handful of names that got joined this call before we got started with the presentation or during the presentation, so that we can get them labeled appropriately, and then we'll be able to start the Q&A process by unmuting lines directly. Right now, caller with a phone number ending in 11, can you identify yourself?
Is that me?
So you might want to keep going through that list.
Am I unmuted?
Okay. Your name, caller?
Jose, I think that is someone that we already have that unmuted themselves. So
Okay, got it.
okay.
All right. So why don't we do this, LaShawn? I'm going to try to see if we can try this. We're having some trouble with the unmute feature, but I'm going to try to see if I can.
It looks like the caller is unmuted now. So
okay. Caller 11, phone number ending in 11. Your name? Okay. Caller with a phone number ending in 27. Can you share your name with us? Okay. All right, here. Give me one moment, folks. Thanks for your patience. Well, let's go to some of the folks that we were able to have join us at the beginning. I am unmuting your call number now, Miss Shanita Warren. Can you hear us, Miss Warren?
Yes.
Do you have a question or comment for us this evening?
No, not at this time. I don't. No.
Thank you, Miss Warren. I appreciate your participation. Miss Sharon Beach. Miss Beach. Miss Beach, can you hear me? All right, I'll come back to Miss Beach. Miss Rita Macklin.
Jose, I think because of this new feature, they may not know how to unmute themselves since we're not able to unmute them if they're calling from a landline or mobile line. I'm sorry.
This is Miss Pearson. It says push *6 to unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to start. Let me just go back to, well, actually, Ms. Pearson, because you shared some valuable information with us, why don't we have you go ahead? Do you have a question for us this evening, Ms. Pearson?
I sure do. This is a question. The first question is like, will the residents have the first opportunities for the job openings and things that will be, you know, all the retail shops and things like that, or are you picking people from the outside?
I can answer that question right up front. It's going to be geared towards you. We don't know what type of retail will be there, right?
Right.
So that's going to be something that we're going to have to develop. But the whole idea, right? But the whole idea of what we're going towards is economic opportunity and workforce development for the community as it exists now. So those you as residents, that's the way it's going to work. That's what it's going to work. And we have, you know, we're going to do it in several different ways, but that's the whole idea of what we're trying to build here. It's going to be something pretty unique and somewhat different than possibly what we've done in the past.
Exactly.
Yes,
Okay.
to answer your question, yes.
Yes.
Okay. One more thing. Who has the say, or who has to say? Like you said, we're going to be a lot of people will be relocated, and you said that there will be a lot of market rent and affordable housing. But who has the say on who's able to come back, or who because of all of the new market rent and everything, a lot of people not going to be inside of that, bracket. So what happens to the other people that does not fit? And then who has to say on who's coming back?
Everyone's going to have the opportunity to return. That's
Okay.
the one-for-one
Okay.
replacement concept that was in the slide. So that is our goal, to make sure that everyone has the opportunity, if they so choose to do so, to return.
Yeah. All right. That is wonderful. That's all I have for now, I think.
Thank you, Ms. Pearson. So,
I just say one thing. I just want to couch it. I'm sorry, Jose. I just want to couch it because I know Central will get me if I don't. Let's not forget that everything isn't going to always be built all at once. So there is going to be a phased approach to redevelopment.
Right. I understand that.
People.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that.
No. I definitely understand that. It doesn't. Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think to that point, Mr. Garrett, also it's important that it's not just a goal for Mr. Garrett, a goal for the Housing Authority, but also a goal for our board, right? To build first components that have been part of this RFP, to meet the components around maximizing economic opportunity for both residents and district residents. Section 3 goals for HUD around participation, all of those things. A lot of that is really what we're going to be then obviously hearing directly from the developer on. The negotiation process will allow us to more clearly define what those are going to be, and at subsequent meetings we'll be able to get into more detail on that process as well. So thank you. So we're going to go ahead and let's try this again. I'm going to go back to Miss Sharon Beach. Miss Beach, if you can hear me, please press *6 on your phone, and we'll be able to take your question and your comment. Miss Sharon Beach. If you press *, there you go. Go ahead, Miss Beach. We can hear you. Miss Beach, do you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Hello?
Yes, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Okay. I don't have any questions at the moment because the questions that was asked just before me is pretty much what I want to ask. And it's like, if we return back, is it that certain people will be considered as market rent that's going to fall under that? Or, I mean, how does that process, works?
So Ms. Beach, I can do a preliminary. I've worked with a couple of these teams before, so I can give you a preliminary idea of how it works. But you come back to a unit that you can afford. That's the way it works, meaning that you're going to be paying 30% of your income when you return. Now you're going to be paying 30% of your income when you return. The unit that you that is geared for you will appropriately deal with you, whatever your economic position is. So that's the best way I can describe it. You're not going to be no resident will come back and be put in a market rate unit. Something that's over their head. That's not the way this works. They come back to a unit that they can afford to live in and efficiently live in for the rest of for as long as they would like to.
Okay. Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Peach. All right, I'm going to go to Ms. Macklin. Ms. Macklin, if you press *6 on your phone, we'll be able to take your question or your comment at this point in time. Ms. Rita Macklin. If you press *6, we'll be able to take your comment or your question.
Good evening.
All right, Ms. Macklin, we can hear you. Yes, thank you so much for your patience.
First of all, I want to thank you for the meeting. Thank you for calling this meeting. My question is, and my concern is, that when you placed us, will there be nice places that you're going to place us into while we're waiting to come back? And do you know how long it's going to be? Because we have been waiting for some time for any information. So we are thankful that we're getting this information now. But do you have a time frame of when this is going to start?
Well, our first step, Ms. Beach and Central or Andre can jump in as to how we put together the project timeline is to get this through and have this approved by our board so that we can begin the process of negotiating with the developer. That's when the clock really starts to tick for us, and then we can better put together a actual project timeline that we'll be able to share and work on with you as part of the community. And as far as units that will be relocated to, depending upon the method of the relocation, you're going to be going to a quality unit. It's not going to be a substandard unit by any means. That's not the purpose of the relocation. The purpose of the relocation is to put you in a position where you're comfortable and then have you return. Remember, if you're using one of the forms such as a voucher or something like that, you're going to have choice, meaning that if that's what you want to utilize at that point in time, you'll be able to identify the unit yourself that you would like to live in. And then, when we begin to return people, you'll be able to come back. So the goal is not to put anyone in any type of substandard unit or anything like that.
Thank you. The only reason I was asking about the time, because maybe I got it misconstrued. I thought that you had such a time of when you were going to get started by talking to the developers, but you're saying that you haven't got a time from them when this process is going to start. Is that correct?
So Ms. Macklin, this is Senthil Sankaran from the Housing Authority. I mean, you're correct. Like, this is the kickoff of the process where we would negotiate with the developer and where we would be bringing the developer to the community as well. And we still have to legally document all of the pledges that are being made, and then negotiate the key business terms of this deal, which would then lead us to the point of working with the community on the remainder of the planning and the zoning that would need to take place prior to a building even being built. We are still early in that process. So, but the community would be brought along the entire way.
So I understand. So yet now we're still on the holding pad.
Correct. And the act, okay. What we're seeking from the board is the approval to negotiate with a single party in order to move forward with a plan.
Okay. I just wanted to, I had my hopes up high, and but now I understand. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Macklin. I'm going to jump around here a little bit. I'm going to go and Miss Crystal Brooks. Can you unmute yourself, *6? Miss Crystal Brooks? Miss Brooks, can you hear me? *6 or... Okay, we'll come back to you. I have Miss Angela Stubbs. Can you press *6 on your phone and pose your question or comment for us, Miss Angela Stubbs? Miss Stubbs, *6. Okay, we'll come back. Catherine Johnson, Miss Catherine Johnson. Do you want to go ahead and press *6 on your phone so you can ask your question? There you go.
Yes, I have a couple of questions. Are they going to do things like they did up the street? What is that called? The projects that they had up the street from us, like what is that called up the street? The housing complex y'all tore down and they rebuild up the street.
You
Anyway,
thinking of Arthur Casper?
Yes. So some of those are housing, public housing. Some of them you can buy, correct? But my assumption was that you had to pass a credit check. Is that so when we go to look at some of these places, or because of where they're located?
Are you talking about in terms of rental? Because what we do is that we actually work with our residents along with landlords. So if you were, we did this with Arthur Capper when we had the actual fire, and we had to relocate those seniors into other units. We worked with our potential landlords, with our residents, to ensure that they were placed. So we try to eliminate as many barriers as we possibly can for relocation. Now, I'm not saying that it's perfect, and some of our residents, we have to look multiple times for relocation units if that's the case. But in this particular instance, let's not forget, what we're also trying to do is create build first a component to all of this. That's something that we want to talk to very seriously with the development team about build first opportunities, which honestly eliminate the need for residents to relocate out of the neighborhood in that manner. So that's really important. And if that's something that the residents want to see, we've already baked it into our review of this particular development team, but we would love to be able to reinforce that when we meet again and introduce them to you.
Okay, so if we live in a house now, will they put us back in the house? Will we be able to move back into a house?
Well, I think the way it works is you'll be moved back into a comparable unit. And if you were to utilize a relocation voucher and you could identify a location that you felt comfortable with, you could move into a unit in that manner also.
One other question. Do you have any programs that we can start looking into now? That
Yes, ma'am. Brian Harris, and we have our navigator, and we also have the Department of Resident Services that will reach out to you first thing tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, we'll reach out to you directly and start discussing what you're looking at, and if there is something in reference to like home ownership or something to that regard, they can start working with you.
Okay.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
You're
Johnson.
welcome.
Ms. Brooks, are you back on? I saw you on there for a second. Can you unmute yourself, Ms. Brooks? Okay, let's see. Thanks everybody for your patience as we go. Okay, so I've got Angel McGee. Angel McGee, do you want to press *6 on your phone so you can ask your question? Angel McGee.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi. So I'm in the elevator actually going home now, but yeah, I was listening to the questions and some of the same questions that other people had, I had as well. But yeah, I wanted to know also, have a nice day. Thank you. Also, wanted to know about home ownership as well, as the last young lady has stated. Or just, other options as well that, we can look into. Because I do understand that nothing happens overnight. This is going to be a process.
Yeah, I think it's important for us to share. Oh, sorry, I'll turn on my video as well. That, one of the strengths of this team that we've put forward as a recommended team to move forward with is the fact that they did have a true mix of uses and not just which was responsive to the master planning that the residents were integral to. It is and which has a significant home ownership component, and which would also include an affordable home ownership component that we felt was important to provide opportunities for our residents.
And Senthil, just to that point, then I'll make sure we have this added to the Greenleaf site. There are some really good overviews of the programs that we offer at the Housing Authority through the Department of Resident Services, the Family Self-Sufficiency Program. We opened up a brand new center earlier this year. and there is virtual programming being done to prepare folks, and this is the best time to do it, right? Is to start going through that process at this point in time, to figure out what steps can be taken so that when those opportunities are made available, a resident is prepared for them in that point in time. Mr. Garrett, did you want to add anything on that component?
No, you're absolutely right, Jose. That's where we are, and beginning now is the best way to avail yourselves of the opportunities that will be presented as we move through this particular process. So Resident Services has a lot of work to do in gearing up and getting everyone ready for the next step. And one thing I do want to say, it is a process, so I don't want anyone, you nor your neighbors, to be discouraged if you have a goal. It's not, to be homeowners or something along those lines. Please, let us work with you and let's stick with it together to get you to that point. And the other point I just wanted to make was Central was talked about this group in terms of their what they presented to us and was evaluated in terms of a strong home ownership component. They also have experience at doing it, and I think that's something that's important to also note, that these teams have worked with housing authorities, as was stated, and have created home ownership programs in conjunction with agencies like ours. So they've seen it before. They know what we're facing. They know what you're facing, and seemingly we figure out ways to get it done.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and unmute and Miss Hamilton, Miss Rhonda Hamilton. You can press *6 on your phone if you have a question or comment for us, Commissioner Hamilton.
Thank you so much for the opportunity for doing the presentation. My question is for the Build First opportunities. In terms of, we know from what I understand with Build First, it prevents displacement of residents outside of the community by allowing them to be able to move within the project. And I wanted to know, what are your thoughts on ensuring that this occurs successfully? Because I think if this is done well, it will serve as a good model for how to do Build First right without displacing residents. But my question is what are your thoughts on how you would avoid displacement and also provide opportunities for residents, as it was mentioned earlier, to be accommodated with units that will give them multiple opportunities, such as to purchase within their, within the project's site itself?
I know Central and Andre can talk about Build First a little bit more, and Andre might want to throw up his slide again. But we're, I said in a previous presentation and discussion, we're, committed to Build First 300 times over. That is something that we want to see happen. That is something we know is very important to the community. How we do it and how we go about it will require resident input, community input as to how we make it work so that we can be that model. But that is a component that is very, very important to this whole entire process. Before, and Andre can show it, I think, on his screen where you might have it, where he identified possible.
So, Director Garrett, if I can jump in, I want to reiterate your, the commitment to Build First, and I think it's important for everyone to understand that in our RFP, and for all the teams that were responsive to the RFP that we brought to the best and final, it was made clear that Build First is, is at the core of this redevelopment effort. And Ms. Hamilton, as you said, it's important for us and my team, and Director Garrett's direction to ensure that we are meeting those objectives and that we are creating that model, like you said, is to prove that it can work. And so for all of the teams, they were required to show us and demonstrate that they had site control of the sites that they were proposing to use as Build First sites, so that we could then develop units and relocate residents prior to doing the demolition and rebuilding on DCHA parcels. But then what we also want to do is try and take advantage of the opportunities that arise from that, and that we have to be strategic as to where on the Greenleaf site do we want to build our first couple buildings actual on-site after the off-site build first, as that these developers would be bringing to the table. And I look forward to coming to this group with the development team so they can share what their sites are to demonstrate why they're going to be able to build on those sites. And one of the strengths of this team is that they demonstrated to us that they had sites under their control and that they would be able to move forward in partnership with the housing authority in order to provide real replacement units, and not only in the city but in Southwest itself. Both of the sites they've identified to us are both in Southwest, and I look forward to being able to negotiate with them in order to secure those sites. And timing is important. So it's actually another reason why we've stressed to the board, the longer we wait, the fewer and fewer sites that will be available for us to do build first in the neighborhood.
And there were 2 points that I just wanted to make, Ms. Hamilton. One is in reference to the build first component. I think there was a misnomer out there that the DCHA had turned down build first sites. We were never offered any build first sites from anyone. So I know the firehouse came up as it was talked about in discussion, but that was never an opportunity for the DCHA to actually identify as a build first location. It was never put on the table to us. So our RFP that Central discussed and Andre talked about really put on the table that the developers themselves needed to come to the table with build first opportunities that were viable, that could be actually utilized to do exactly what you want to do and what we want to do in the future. Build first as a possible relocation site for our residents. The other piece I just want to mention, and I do it all the time because I'm a technician with this HUD thing. I don't want anyone to think that at any point in time that we would be discouraging residents to, if they did not want to necessarily relocate to a build first unit, that we would discourage them from utilizing a voucher if we made them available to move off site on their own. So I just want you to realize that if we do receive vouchers from the federal government and relocation vouchers, we will be obligated to offer those to the residents, and they would have to make a decision on their own if they wanted to use that as a vehicle for relocation. And that's just a disclaimer that I've been putting out there when I talk to each group.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Reverend Harrison, if you want to press *6. Reverend Harrison, if you have a question or comment that you want to pose, just press *6 on your phone.
Director, Mr. Garrett, and the staff, just simply listening in as a member of the advisory board. Thank you very kindly.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Bishop, if you'd like to press *6 on your phone, well, we can take your question or your comment at this point in time.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I sent a letter, email out to everybody with my concerns. And I also just wanted to speak briefly on the development options. As y'all know, we are in a pandemic. There has been a lot of parents who have passed and kids have been taken over by other people. That have already live in the housing property, where they be assured to have the amount of rooms that they need. And plus the disabled are located in apartments that are not wheelchair accessible. As far as housing, 400 and something units replaced, I think they need to also replace, build even more. And for the developers that's part of the property that's not going to be under housing, like to buy or to rent, that also that they become more disabled of units available. And I have another question. The dear departed Mrs. Leftwich was our president at Greenleaf Midrise. I want information on the election for resident councilor for Greenleaf Midrise, and to make sure that we still have a voice when it's rebuilt, that our council boards remain on the property. Thank you very much.
I can answer, Ms. Bishop, I can answer that question, the last question first. That's a definite. Everyone doesn't always have that same approach, but I do. That I like to maintain the resident associations and the resident councils in place. So even after redevelopment is completed or some type of rehabilitation, I always still like to maintain resident councils because that's the voice of for the community. That's something that will continue, and we'll always figure out a way to. I'm committing to it now to make sure that we fund it as we have funded it in the past. That's number one for me. The second part was in dealing with when is your resident council election going to take place. That won't take place until the spring. We needed to push it off until we have a waiver from HUD, so we're going to push that off until the spring in hopes that the pandemic lifts and we can go through the proper mechanism to have an adequate election, not only for Greenleaf, but for all of our properties as they exist now. So, and
Yes,
as far
I
as
would like to have that
right-sizing or
information,
creating,
date and time. Because
we
I'm
haven't set a date.
considering running.
We haven't set a date.
Right, I'm considering
Okay,
running, so I would like to make sure I have that information.
Ms. Bishop, we haven't set a date nor time yet. When we get closer to the spring of 21, we'll definitely make sure everyone is aware and has the information that they need. As far as increasing the number of ADA units or disabled units, that's something that we'll definitely take into consideration when talking to the developer. And also in looking at what our family composition is for our residents as they exist now, that's going to lead us to what type of units we build in the future to ensure that everyone does have the opportunity to come back to a unit that is appropriate for them and their family.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Ms. Bishop.
All right, I have Miss Davis. Miss Davis, if you'd like to unmute yourself by pressing *6, Miss Davis. Go ahead, Miss Davis. You are unmuted if you want to go ahead and ask your question. If not, we can come back to Miss Davis. Last call for Miss Davis. You want to ask your question?
Yes, can you hear me now?
We can hear you. Yes, thank you.
Yes, how you doing? My question was, I wanted to know how soon will we be relocating, and when we do relocate, will we be relocating to something affordable?
Sorry.
Okay, I can answer the question, the easy question first. Yes, it'll be something affordable, ma'am. It's not going to take.
Okay.
Everyone's still going to continue at the same. Now, the time frame is what Central was talking about, what Andre is talking about. We don't have a specific time frame as of right now as to when we would start any type of relocation effort. We're just at the first stage of the process of, again, trying to just identify our development partner and then start talking and developing that actual plan that will include you. And then we'll be able to better serve you with clear timelines of what we need to do.
And I think Jose also mentioned, we'll be coming back on a monthly basis, and we'll be talking about the steps in the process that will lead up to that, which will also include getting approvals from HUD, as well as working with the development team in order to, assemble the plan and, the steps that we would need to go through this, to the city and in order to get zoning approvals. And we'll be able to attach a better timeline as we make our way through that process. But rest assured, there'll be plenty of engagement leading up to that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Okay, I've got Ms. Morant. Ms. Morant, if you want to unmute by pressing *6. Ms. Morant. Ms. Morant, do you have a question for us that you'd like to pose? If you want to press *6 by unmuting your phone. Okay, we'll come back to you. Forgive me if it's Mr. or Mrs. Matthews. I'm not sure if I recall. I just wrote down Matthews. If there's someone with the last name Matthews who would like to unmute by pressing *6, we can take your question at this time. Last name Matthews. You press *6. Miss Morant, you did unmute successfully a moment ago. You want to try to unmute again, Miss Morant? By pressing *6, we can hear your question if you unmute.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes, go ahead.
Okay. All the questions I would answer. Good evening. I really don't have nothing to say because, like I said, it's a waiting period. Basically, everybody had asked and got answers to what they were had questions about. So basically, just don't have anything to say at this point.
Thank you, Ms. Morant.
Thank you.
So it's just, I want to just reiterate also to what Mr. Garrett said and what you heard some of my colleagues say. The goal for this exercise is that we hope that you get tired of us. We want you to know that we'll be meeting with you monthly. I say that in the hope that we can continue to provide valuable information, but that you always feel like you have an appropriate open avenue to ask the questions that you want to ask to get the information that you need. Like I said, we're at the very beginning of this process, but we intend to show you that even with the challenges associated with the pandemic and even with the challenges associated with that not being able to meet in person, that we're providing an avenue to bring these questions up. We're hearing a lot of questions about timing, a lot of questions about relocation, all of that. And the monthly gatherings that we're going to be convening will be able to allow us to set some really good expectations on when that will be happening, how to best prepare for it, and all of those programs that we have in place amongst our departments to get everybody, set in a way that what's coming, nothing's going to be a surprise, but also that we can provide the appropriate level of comfort to you, because we know this is uncomfortable for a lot of folks. But it's important that we share information when we have it, and that's why this is the first of many meetings on this point. So thank you for letting me make that quick qualifier there. Miss Catherine Staten, if you'd like to unmute by pressing *6, Miss Catherine Staten, we can take your question at this point in time.
Hello?
Yes, Miss Staten, please go ahead.
Yes, the question that I had the question I want to ask you, someone have already asked, so I don't have any questions at this time.
Well, we appreciate you participating, Miss Staten. Thank you so much. Miss Watson, Miss Karen Watson, if you'd like to unmute and by pressing *6, we can take your question at this time. Miss Karen Watson.
Hello?
Yes, Miss Watson, please go ahead.
Hi. My question is, well, before I came to Greenleaf Gardens, I lived in a place where the hallways were dirty and a lot of other things were going on, noise outside and all of that kind of stuff, and kind of like traumatized me. And so when you say relocate, it's kind of hard. What will it be like in situations would be susceptible to situations like that?
I can't unequivocally say no. We have a different approach. This is a different administration than what you might have previously seen. I'm not going to allow my team to put anyone in a unit that's substandard or anyone in a unit that doesn't have a quality of life that you deserve. So that's not our goal by any stretch of the imagination. We're not going to. We want to move quickly, but we're not going to move quickly where we put our residents in jeopardy or our customers in an uncomfortable situation. That is not our goal by any stretch of the imagination. And we're going to make sure that when we do, that's our goal. And what I need to ask from you as members of the community and as of leaders within the community, that there has to be a level of trust that we're going to have to develop with you, and we're going to have to take a lot of large steps in order to be able to put you in that position where you do trust us that we're acting on your behalf. And I see Reverend Harrison is on, and the one thing I wanted to stress, and I stressed to when I spoke to the advisory group, was our sincerity, but also our transparency. And I hope, Reverend, if there's anything that we haven't been consistent on in terms of discussing this with this group, that you pull my coattail on it. And you tell me that I missed something or that we missed something as a team that we stated to you as a group that we did not state to the residents this evening, because that's going to be another vehicle for us to be able to build the capacity and also the trust within the community that we're doing the right thing on your behalf. So
Mm-hmm. Okay, because I don't think it was the property manager, but it was the residents that lived in the building, and they just didn't care about the way that they lived, and so they would throw trash in the hallways, trash outside, and loud noise, and 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and stuff like that. So that's where it came from, and it was horrible.
Thank you, Ms. Watson. Ms. Gamble, Ms. Gail Gamble, if you would like to unmute by pressing *6, Ms. Gamble, we'll take your question at this time.
Good evening. My name is Gail Gamble, but the ladies that got on there, they asked all the questions for me. I'm just being patient. But thank y'all for doing this meeting.
Thank you for joining us, Ms. Gamble. Appreciate it. Mr. Joseph Hawkins, if you want to press *6, Mr. Hawkins. Mr. Joseph Hawkins. Great. Mr. Christopher Williams. Christopher Williams, if you'd like to unmute by pressing *6, you can take your question at this time.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. There's a reverb, so if you're on more than once, you might need to mute one portion of it.
Okay. Does that help?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. My name is Chris Williams. I am a community leader in Southwest. And as you know, our community values our diversity, our racial and economic diversity, and we have a lot of concerns about this project. So I have just a couple of comments, and then I have a question. When we have engaged with housing authorities around the country regarding the challenges of rebuilding Greenleaf, all the housing authorities agreed that the best solution would be to start with the lowest density first, which would be Greenleaf Gardens. Almost all the plans that were presented in December called for really the highest density Greenleaf Senior to start first, and so we're very concerned about that. I'm also concerned that the effect that this would have in exacerbating gentrification in Southwest, which is already acute, which is already increasingly one of the most expensive neighborhoods in the city, is not a part of these discussions. Neither is the new comprehensive plan framework, which really positions centrally the importance of racial and economic equity, especially with respect to the Southwest Neighborhood Plan. So I really would like for you to talk about how you all are at this point working to ensure congruence with that plan, because we would not like to see another gentrifying project. We already have fewer Black residents in Southwest living here than 10 years ago, and we have 2,500 more white residents. It's really an issue of racial justice. We are also being told that part of the reason why Greenleaf Gardens is being redeveloped, not just on account of the aging housing, but on account that the land is not optimal use because of particularly the townhomes. But as you know, at least 1/4 of DC, particularly in white areas in Ward 3, are not experiencing the rate of development that we're seeing in our neighborhood. How
Mr.
do
Williams,
you all take in
Mr.
the larger picture of what's going on in the community? The other thing that I'll say this loud.
Mr. Williams, really quickly, sir. So we have about 25 other folks on this call. We'd like to get to them. You've got 4 questions on there. So I hit mute really quickly because I want to make sure we get to everybody. Senthil, Andre, if you'd like to address the first 2 parts of Mr. Williams' questions around density and the comp plan, or Mr. Garrett, I want to make sure we're able to get to everybody tonight. So go ahead.
What I want to say is Mr. Williams might have contacted other housing authorities throughout the nation. That's great. Everyone has a different plan that they put forth, but I do know that Penrose, as a development team, is one of the premier developers in affordable housing with housing authorities within the nation. And so they take into consideration all of the obstacles and all the goals of the residents. and we're going to do the same in this particular instance. It is not our intent to create any type of additional gentrification by any stretch of the imagination. The idea is to build a new community for our residents, and have a quality of life that they actually deserve. So for us, my administration, the reason that we're looking to move forward with a redevelopment opportunity at Greenleaf is totally based on physical needs assessment that we can no longer maintain at the level that they deserve, because of the lack of capital funding throughout HUD and for other housing authorities that are just like ours. We're no different than anyone else. I'm committed to that. I'm going to stay committed to that goal. Because the residents deserve a much better opportunity in terms of quality housing, and we know that we can't maintain it in its current state. So I don't know, Cynthia, if you want to talk about comp plan and different things like that.
Sure. And Mr. Williams, I appreciate your comments. I think this is also an opportunity for us to reiterate yet again our commitment to the build first and what that actually is able to facilitate. One, it is to prevent that displacement that some other redevelopment projects have faced. So it is keeping residents within an area, but because we are committed to that as well, we're also limited as to what can be built on these build first sites. And like I said, I look forward to the opportunity to having the developer come here and actually hear all of these differing voices, which will impact the plan. Because as you know, the plan, the city itself is going through its own comp planning process, but most of these sites will be subject to what is a planned unit development PUD process here in the city, which is as part of that is absolute requirement for resident and community feedback, and all of those voices need to be heard, and will impact of what actually gets built and where. And as I stressed earlier, one of the strongest one of the key strengths of this development proposal has been the fact that they did have a true mix of uses. This does have a mix of both of denser uses in certain areas and then less dense in others, because it's actually having a significant townhome component where others might not have had that at all. And I think that was demonstrated at the December meetings, the meeting that took place last year whenever the teams presented. So I 100% hear some of the concerns you're raising, and I think there's going to be more than adequate opportunity in order to express some of that through the planning process. And we'll be able to jointly with the developer discuss the strategy of like why certain choices are going to be made, and if they need to be, if some of those choices need to change throughout the process, we'll have the opportunity to have those conversations. But again, we need to start those conversations, and in order to do so, first we need the board to act in terms of allowing us to negotiate with an individual partner and bring them to the community to start that engagement.
Thank you, Senthil. Mr. Littles, if you star 6 on your phone, you're unmuted, Mr. Littles. If you want to ask your question.
Hi, Jose. Ezel Littles is with the CHA.
Yes, we can hear Ms. Littles.
Well, my only question at the time was, as far as the residents having the opportunity to work the Section 3 part. But that question has been posed several times this evening. So I'm just waiting to hear what else, is on the table as far as the development is concerned. So
absolutely.
As of right now, I don't have a question. I just want to hear more about the resident, because it's solely about the residents. So I'm waiting to hear more of the opportunities that are posed for the residents.
Excellent.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Littles.
Mr. Littles, I welcome that comment, and again, I would encourage you, as like when we come back with the development team, that that comment is raised again, and it'll help us whenever, as my team, as we're negotiating, to continue to press that gets papered in our agreement, and all of the there's the baseline commitments that are going to be required from any deal that we do through HUD, and I believe Director Garrett spoke to that. But beyond that, as to like so that we can customize this this development project to meet what the residents of Greenleaf truly want and need.
Okay,
And
we'll do.
and Mr. Littles, we already have the board passed about a year ago economic inclusion policy, which goes directly to the opportunity for development and inclusion of Section 3 and beyond in dealing with redevelopment projects or rehabilitation projects like this, where we make sure that we have our residents included.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Littles.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Deborah Spencer. Deborah Spencer, if you want to press *6, we can take your question at this time. Ms. Deborah Spencer.
Hello.
Hi, Ms. Spencer. Go ahead. We can hear you.
I don't have any comments, but I like what I heard so far.
Well, thank you for joining us this evening, Ms. Spencer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Coleman, Ms. Deborah Coleman. If you'd like to press *6, we can take your question at this time, Ms. Deborah Coleman. Ms. Coleman. Okay, we'll come back to Ms. Coleman. Ms. Crystal Henderson, if you want to press *6 by unmuting your phone, we can take your questions at this time. Go ahead. We can hear you.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, I know you said that there hasn't been a timeline set for moving, relocating everyone, but when, I don't know if this question was answered, it probably was, but I got here late. If they are going to be relocating the residents here, the places that we will be relocated to, are they going to be this housing like this, or is it something that the developers have, or what, so how are they going to be, where are they going to be relocated to?
Sorry, I was on mute. It can be a combination of all the above, ma'am. And what I mean by that, it could be a relocation site that's considered to be built first. A resident could make a choice that they want to move off site with a housing choice voucher if that's available to them. Or they could say they want to wait until another phase of development is built.
So, cause me, I don't have the voucher. I'm on public housing. So would I have to go to another public housing, or would I get the same options as like someone with the voucher?
I'm sorry. Yeah, the way this process works is, we have to get through this door first, but then there's a later process where, as Senthil mentioned, we submit a demolition disposition application where relocation vouchers are offered to the housing authority, and then in turn we offer those to residents. So that's a way that if you have that choice or have that preference, that would be the vehicle to move off site.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Henderson. Let me go to now. I've got a caller, 202, and the last two numbers of the phone number are 60. Caller ending in 60. If you want to press *6, we can take your question at this time. Go ahead. We can hear you. You're unmuted. We can hear you, caller 60. Hello? Okay. Caller 202, and then last two numbers being 67. 202, and then number ending in 67. If you want to press *6, we can take your questions at this time.
I don't have any questions. This is Dawn Miller. I was just listening to what's going on.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Appreciate you joining us.
All right.
I believe I have a caller 202 ending in 50. Ms. Buganim, and I apologize for if I'm mispronouncing that. Caller ending in 50. Hara Buganim.
Yeah, it ends in 63.
Okay.
But I am here mainly to listen and want to be informed in the future of meetings. I live in Waterfront Tower, which is across 3rd Street from Greenleaf for over 9 years now. and really care about what happens there and how well people are treated. Questions. This is looking back. How did the list of developers go from 5 to 1? I was at that meeting and I have no idea what process in order to narrow it down, what you went through. The second question is, you mentioned this builder had 2 places for build first. Can you please identify those? And the third question is, if as people are relocated, will they have a choice of units in the relocation place and in their final home? Will they be able to pick from a choice of units, equivalent size?
Okay, thank you.
Will they get
Thank you.
townhouse?
Thank you.
Okay.
So, Senthil and Andre, if you'd like to speak to the selection process, how we culled down to this recommendation.
Sure,
Yeah.
Andre, if you want to take the first piece and then I'll take the second.
Okay, I'll take the first one. So after we brought the teams out in December, those 5 teams, there was an evaluation panel that evaluated their proposals, and they were scored, and the team that scored the best was the team that's presented to you now. And that's the team that is being pushed forward for selection currently.
And then just one thing to add to that is, like, when we came in December, the comments and suggestions that were collected were integrated and shared with the selection panel, so that would be integrated into the selection process. And out of that, a recommendation has now been made, and we're taking that to the board for approval. And then regarding your second question, I believe during that presentation, they presented the sites that they were proposing for, the build first. However, I mean, we are technically still in an open procurement, so I mean, I think I'd probably get in trouble with my executive director if I spoke about individual pieces, but that would be I would imagine one of the very first conversations we would have when we bring the team to the community and to the residents, to the broader community and to the residents, as to, like, what their build first plan is, which sites they've identified, and what they think those sites could accommodate.
Thank you, Senthil.
And then I believe there was one other question. I apologize. I think it was like a choice of units. Andre, if you want to handle that.
And I think Mr. Garrett spoke on this earlier, as far as the unit would be matched up with the family's composition and put them in the best unit for their family.
Thank you, Andre. All right, caller 202 ending in 60. If your phone number ends in 60, go ahead and unmute yourself, *6, and we'll take your question at this time.
There are actually 2 of those.
I know, I'm trying to see which one takes my bait first here. So, caller ending in 60, 2029, and then 60, or 2024 ending in 60. Okay. I want to just also reiterate that I really appreciate everyone's patience with us so far. We're going to try to we're almost through, everybody. 202, and then last 2 numbers, 34. If you'd like to unmute yourself by pressing *6, we can take your question at this time. You're unmuted. Go ahead, caller.
This is Ron Friday, the Community Navigator.
Thank you, Mr. Friday. Mr. Friday is a valuable resource for all of you. Many of you know him, and thank you for joining us this evening. And I'm sorry that I made you unmute yourself. Okay, 202, last 2 numbers, 98. 98. Please unmute yourself by pressing *6, and we'll take your question at this time. 202, and then 98. Okay. Go ahead. You're unmuted.
Hello.
Yes. Go ahead. We can hear you.
Okay, did you call for George Sparrow? I pushed 9-8.
Okay, yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead. You have a question or comment for us?
Okay, when the next time you send this letter with some partner hours vacancy in the north side of it, like down southwest? Hello?
Yes, I can hear. Can you repeat that question, ma'am?
Yes, my name is George Sparrow. And I was wondering, for the next meeting, you're going to send a letter out?
Yes. So for subsequent meetings, we'll do what we did today, which is basically provide notice of the meeting, provide a copy of the presentation, and instructions on how to be able to join the meeting. Now, typically, we send those out obviously via email, but it's also important to get them out via hard copy because we know that not everybody has an email account. And so the same way that you receive notice for this meeting today is the way that you'll receive notice for the next meeting as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
So caller ending in 202, I'm sorry, 202, and the last two numbers are 18. 18.
Yes. With regards to relocation, even if the children go to school in the neighborhood, it's not going to be far. Correct.
So I think you bring up a really great point that our relocation team does when they work with the residents, ma'am. And give me your last name so I can make sure I'm addressing you properly.
Thornton.
Ms. Thornton. So there are individual family surveys that take place that our relocation team meets with each family to basically figure out the personal circumstances of just their unit composition, but also of school-age children. All of that is factored into what goes into shaping relocation options for you. And so when we get to that point in time, and it's not going to be a matter of just a few weeks out, it's something that happens several months before that point in time, you'll be hearing from us about phasing and what the impact is going to be on that, to hear about what your options are going to be as it pertains to relocation options that you can exercise in terms of what's best for your family. Mr. Garrett, do you want to add anything to that point?
No.
Okay.
You've hit it. Thank you.
Ms. Thornton,
And another thing with relocating. So if we relocate, we have the opportunity to relocate back into the new unit. And second part of that question, are y'all downsizing the space? Or I understand y'all want to bring market rent to the area, more market rent to the area, but are y'all downsizing the low income people's space? Are the children and the families going to have the same space?
It's going to be matched up to the family composition, ma'am. So
okay,
that's the way it's going to work. We're not going to put in anyone in a unit that doesn't fit their family composition. So whatever you need, that's what you're going to that's what you're actually going to receive.
Okay, and the first part of that question, will we have the opportunity to come back?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thornton.
You're welcome.
And my last caller is 202 and the number ending in 5050. If you want to press *6, if the last two numbers of your phone number are 50, press *6. We can take your question at this time.
Oh, well, actually, I'm Danielle Pearson. My number is 50 as well. I think I took the first question.
Yes. We got you. Thank you, Ms. Pearson. Appreciate it.
Yeah. All right.
So with that, we've gone through everybody who's on this call. I just want a couple of housekeeping items, and I'll kick it over to Mr. Garrett for closing remarks. This meeting is being recorded. We will upload the recording of this meeting to the website. We will send out a message to everyone to how to view this. You'll also be able to see this presentation on there. We have documented all the questions. We will be providing written answers to all the questions that you've asked. We're going to combine those questions and answers to the questions and answers that we receive tomorrow from our senior residents. And we will basically create a summary document that will be shared back to you all that will also then have information on our next meeting so that you can reread, review, and research that which we've discussed already and think about some of the questions that you want to bring to the next meeting. With that, Mr. Garrett, do you have anything for us in closing before we conclude tonight?
No, I just wanted to say thank you again to everyone for participating in this. And this is something that we're going to continue to do, as I stated, and as the entire team has stated, going forward. We want to keep you engaged and keep you enthusiastic about this. One thing that I would ask is that, we're as I said, and I use the word sincere, we have that in our heart about getting this thing done and getting it moving out the gate. But what I would ask is that, based on our conversation this evening, I would love to hear or be able to, say to my board next week, or have you actually say to my board that we've had this conversation, that you feel, not you don't have to be on board 300%. And I understand there's a lot of anxiety, but that we believe that my administration is moving in the right direction to support what the families at Greenleaf actually need in terms of redevelopment. And that would go a long way to helping get us started, because again, can't move us forward. I can't finish anything or complete a redevelopment project, a rehab project, or anything of the sorts unless my team is given the opportunity to get started. And so this is, again, the first step that we're asking our board to allow us to start moving forward and get started so we can identify a completion date in the future. So anything that you could do to offer support to us, we really would appreciate it. So thank you.
And Mr. Garrett, that's a great point. We will share instructions back to all attendees tonight as well about how you can voice your support for being able to get us to this next part of the process, either by signing up to testify or by providing, if you would just want to send an email to board@dchousing.org and indicate that you participated, you heard from us, and that you want us to keep moving so that we can continue this engagement with you and the development team to move the Greenleaf redevelopment process forward. We'll share those instructions to all attendees as well. Andre or Senthil, anything in closing that you'd like to add?
Just that I'd like to echo the executive director's sincere thanks, and I think Andre would probably echo the fact that we are eager. This has been a long process for everyone, and we are eager to really dive in and push this project forward and deliver upon the promises that we've made to the residents and to the community, and build a better community for all.
And I echo those sentiments. We would like to continue where we started so long ago and keep this thing moving.
Excellent.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. And with that, again, thank you for participating this evening. We appreciate your patience. Please send any questions to greenleaffeedback@dchousing.org and visit dcha.us/Greenleaf to be able to view the presentation and the meeting recording as well. With that, have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Stay safe and healthy. We'll talk very soon. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Hey, baby.